We have a Bitcoin alert for you. Bitcoin nearing $10,000. The crypto has been in stealth rally mode since early April. So what is going on here? Our own Bob Pisani breaks it all down. Hi, Bob.
The recent low for Bitcoin was $6,600 on April 5th, but since then, Bitcoin's up 45%. It sold off going into mid-April. Many attributed this to tax selling pressure, since some holders may have to sell their coin to pay taxes. The real turnaround occurred on April 12th, just before tax day. Bitcoin surged 17% on heavy volume. Despite regulatory setbacks, Bitcoin's been gaining respectability this year. Volume has been increasing slowly in the Bitcoin futures contract, and Bitcoin was up another 7% this week as the New York Times reported that Goldman Sachs would soon be trading Bitcoin futures. And today, Coinbase announced it was allowing higher limits and instant trading to their accounts. There'll be additional security also to help prevent unauthorized sends of digital currency. Finally, for those of you who want to trade technicals, more positive news. In the last week or so, Bitcoin broke a descending trend line. Since January, there's been a series of lower highs put in. That's a negative trend, but that downtrend has now been broken. Back to you, Melissa.
All right. Thank you very much, Bob Pisani. For more on where Bitcoin is heading, let's bring in our crypto baller, Brian Kelly. He joins us now live from the Hoover Institution's Monetary Policy Conference. And BK, I know that there are a lot of Fed officials roaming around there, and key to Bitcoin's future is how the Fed is going to view Bitcoin. There have been a number of white papers put out by regional Fed offices around the country. So is there a general consensus at this point?
No, I would say there's not necessarily the general consensus, although there's been a lot of thought about it put towards it. You know, when I would go to events like this in the years past, you would kind of dismiss Bitcoin, but it's been brought up several times at this conference and taken quite seriously. And I think you have to, with the market cap at $500 billion at this point. I think it's a serious market.
Is there any regional Fed, in your view, that's sort of taking the lead on this? I mean, you would imagine the New York Fed might take the lead, but the St. Louis Fed actually put out a white paper pretty recently about this.
Yeah, each individual Fed has done some good work on this. I know Steve Leisman has been talking to a lot of them today at this conference. I have not noticed a particular Fed that's taking the lead, although the St. Louis Fed, what was interesting about that paper is they really compared Bitcoin to a fiat currency and how the valuation was very similar. So we talk a lot about, oh, is Bitcoin in a bubble or is Bitcoin not in a bubble? But they just said essentially that the value of Bitcoin is the same, or at least determined in the same way as fiat currency.
And they also sort of acknowledge that there is a place for digital currency, for cryptocurrency specifically, which I thought was pretty interesting in terms of acknowledging the value of Bitcoin with a function. In terms of the most recent stealth rally, BK, what are some of the catalysts you see that could possibly keep this going higher?
We've seen a couple different things. Bob just mentioned in his report about Goldman Sachs trading Bitcoin futures. If we just kind of look back historically, the last time that Goldman made a big move into the cryptocurrency space was back when they bought into Circle Financial. Bitcoin was at $200 at that point in time. So Goldman is definitely, and I know you guys covered it, they are definitely the leader among the institutions in this space. So that's one catalyst we have. Number two, we could get some regulatory clarity. And the one thing that's interesting is Bitcoin is clearly a currency. I think almost everybody that I've talked to and people here at this event are thinking about Bitcoin as a currency and not a security. We'll decide later on about the other ones, but Bitcoin's getting a little bit of lift from that. And then finally, the big event of the year is Blockchain Week in New York. That's coming up next week, or May 14th. And essentially everybody from the world will be descending upon New York to talk about cryptocurrency. So a little bit of a playground for BK.
All right, we'll see you back here then. I assume that you're going to be here in New York for that. BK. Brian Kelly.
I'll be there.
All right, see you then.
Bye.
What do you think of what we've seen, the price action? Bob had an interesting technical chart. I don't know if you agree with the lines.
I think the technicals are maybe the most impressive thing right now. And again, around 9,200, you actually saw Bitcoin break above that downtrend that started in mid-December. And then this powerful kind of 100 over the 200, it was, it led to kind of this explosive move higher. So I think for now, I would agree with that technical view that Bitcoin stays in this zone.
6,500 held a couple times. We talked about it. We played that game. If you didn't have the name on top and just looked at the chart.
You just looked at the chart. Yeah, what would you think if you just
and we talked about it then. You could trade against 6,500. That's when it was in the low sevens. And it's worked. I will tell you, and Steve, I think, said this last night, Goldman Sachs getting into this business will look back on 6 months, wherever this thing is trading, and say that was a turning point for cryptocurrencies, in my opinion.
How about Square? Where are you on that?
So Square, I'm back long again.
Yeah.
I have a 2/3 position. So I sold it, and then I bought back a 2/3 position, waiting for the market to wash out. But when you look at their Bitcoin play, and when you see adoption, if adoption increases and it becomes more prevalent throughout Wall Street banks, then there's going to be more Bitcoin mining. AMD, NVIDIA, these stocks have performed. Those are the go-to names if you don't want to buy the outright currency.
I like Bitcoin here. We just actually had a couple people come in and market an exchange to us this afternoon, and we talked about all the big firms are getting involved. I mean, not just Goldman Sachs, it's every big firm getting involved. The institutional community is taking notice. They're definitely going to be there probably early part of next year, if not late part of this year. I'd stay as a buyer here.